up and head back to the surface. And see if you can get a few of those TIE fighters to follow you.
We talk a lot about newer ships on this channel, but today let's go back to one of the classics. I am Joey from Radio Free Coruscant, and this is the TIE Interceptor. Design. The Sinar Fleet System's TIE IN Interceptor, or Twin Ion Engine Interceptor, was one of the most powerful TIE variants ever produced, with increased speed and improved weaponry. And unlike the other improved TIEs, its design was relatively simple. It had an unmodified standard TIE ball cockpit, with two triangular wing assemblies at its sides, constructed of 4 pointed solar panels connected at the rear. These were bent inward at the top and bottom to reduce the ship's height, and there was a large rectangular cutout at the front of each to improve visibility for the pilot, also giving the ship a very aggressive look. TIE Interceptors were given the nickname of Squints by Rebel pilots, to match the standard TIE's nickname of Eyeballs. Though to be honest, it kind of looks more like a regular eyeball than the original TIE does to me. Anyway, its dagger-like wings were covered in the standard TIE line solar panels for radiating heat and generating additional power in battle. They were tipped with the Interceptor's main weapons, and its advanced targeting sensors were located at the wing root. They were connected back to the cockpit ball with the usual TIE line wing spars, which ended in Phase 1 energy converters to manage the power generated by the solar panels before it was sent back to the rest of the ship. Like many TIE line starfighters, the TIE Interceptor's cockpit ball was topped with its entry hatch, had a large spoked window at the front, weapons and fuel storage at the bottom, and its reactor and namesake engines at the rear. The short conical structure at the back was its reactor housing, and the hexagonal hole in the middle of it was the ship's reactor exhaust. In-universe, the TIE Interceptor's designer was unknown, but it was probably designed by Wraith Sinar like the original TIE fighter. In real life, it was designed for Return of the Jedi by the legendary Joe Johnston, and its filming miniature was built by Larry Tan. Specifications. The TIE Interceptor measured 7.7 meters long by 6.5 meters wide and 5.3 meters tall. It had no hyperdrive, but its top atmospheric speed was an impressive 1,250 kilometers per hour, or 776 miles per hour. Even more impressive was its maximum acceleration of 4,240 Gs. It was armed with 6 LS 9.3 laser cannons, 2 on its chin and 4 on its wingtips. Some TIE Interceptors were also equipped with multi-purpose warhead launchers as well. The ship required only one pilot, and could carry 2 days of consumables and 75 kilograms of cargo, though why you would want to, I have no idea. Finally, the Starfighter cost the Empire 120,000 credits apiece new, and Imperial units could also buy them used from other divisions looking to upgrade for 50,000 on military requisition charges. History. The backstory of the TIE Interceptor is a bit muddled in canon, with a few sources seemingly contradicting each other. Still, a relatively consistent timeline can be constructed without too much trouble. The Interceptor was designed sometime shortly before 14 BBY, and a few prototypes were put into service for testing. One of these was seemingly equipped with a hyperdrive, and used by the Second Sister as her primary mode of transportation for her inquisitorial duties until her death. Another was seen in use during the Imperial occupation of Kashyyyk. The Interceptor remained in testing for a decade, perhaps due to the Empire's lack of any enemies with powerful enough starfighters to require one at that time. But with the rebellion growing larger and stronger, the TIE Interceptor was eventually put into service around 3 BBY. It still did not see widespread use until later in the war, but eventually went on to be one of the most common starfighters in the Empire, second only to the standard TIE. After the war, they remained in use by several Imperial remnants, most notably Moff Gideon's remnant on Mandalore. They also became fairly popular on the black market, and eventually went on to inspire several starfighters of the First Order. Oddly enough, though, all 3 of them were fairly rare, with only a few prototypes built. These were the TIE Baron Space Superiority Interceptor, the TIE Whisper Interceptor variant, and arguably the TIE Silencer, though that was more of a spin-off of the TIE Advanced and TIE Avenger. In Legends, the Interceptor's story was fairly similar, but it wasn't developed until much later. Following the Empire's catastrophic Fei-Hu campaign in 1 BBY that resulted in the loss of 286 standard TIEs to the X-Wings of the Lightspeed Panthers, the Imperial Navy determined that they needed a much more powerful starfighter to counter the Rebel ships. Its other TIE projects in development were much too expensive for mass production, so it was decided that this new interceptor should retain the power of the TIE Advanced while still being as cost-effective as possible. This is presumably why the interceptor reused the cockpit and wing spars of the original TIE. The resulting starfighter entered service shortly after the Battle of Yavin, and proved so impressive that Emperor Palpatine planned to replace all standard TIE fighters with TIE interceptors. By the time of the Battle of Endor, it made up 20% of the Empire's starfighter complement. Following the death of the Emperor in that battle, and the slow collapse of the Empire thereafter, the TIE Interceptor became the premier starfighter of many Imperial remnants. Warlord Zinj and Grand Admiral Thrawn were both known to use them extensively, with Thrawn outfitting his interceptors with shields to better protect them, without a galaxy-spanning military-industrial complex to replace them anymore. Other Imperial remnants followed suit after his death, and continued to use the fighter for many more years, though it was considered somewhat outdated by 15 ABY. The Interceptor also inspired a starfighter of an Imperial successor state in Legends 2 over a century later, though the Fel Empire's Predator-class fighter was a much bigger departure from the Interceptor design than the TIE Baron, Whisper, or Silencer. And that's everything there is to know about the TIE Interceptor. Please let me know what you think of this ship, and what else you'd like to see covered in the future. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. RFC, out.